friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Brendan O'Connor, local artist, writer, and co-host of Bungalower and the Bus, as well as editor-in-chief at bungalower.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. This episode is brought to you in part by Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and trusted Central Florida realtor with Fannie Hellman & Associates, proudly serving their clients for over 40 years. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to trevor@fanniehellman.com or find him on Instagram at Trevor Brown Realtor. And with me today is Brendan Bunting O'Connor, editor-in-chief of Bungalower, freelance writer, drag bingo host, local artist, star of television's Restaurants on the Radar, co-host and radio personality on Bungalower and the Bus, and co-author of 100 Things to Do in Orlando Before You Die. Brendan, welcome.
Oh my gosh, look at you reading my LinkedIn.
You know, I after I wrote that, I had to take a nap. I don't know.
I hope you didn't lose any listeners.
I know, seriously. It's amazing. Thank you for being here. You obviously find lots of things to do with your time. And you are an inspiration, just being a local cheerleader, you know?
It's weird that it's a job, you know?
It's
I regularly have to pinch myself like, what is this little niche you've carved out for yourself, Brendan? Is this real? Will it come crashing down the next day? Who knows? But
I mean, you have a big audience. There's obviously a need for it. You are really on the pulse of news in the city, and it's a pretty big city. There's a lot of things going on, and you cover downtown Orlando plus the bungalow neighborhoods, thus the name.
Yeah, one who bungalows is kind of how I've been trying to describe it, because a lot of people who, if you've never heard of it before, they're like, bungalower? Like, well, what is this? You can always tell, right? Because they're just reading it. They've never heard it.
It's just a test to see if somebody's initiated.
Are you new?
That's
like,
fun.
how do you know? And generally, it's one who bungalows, one who's downtown, people who are out in the neighborhood, living their best Orlando lives.
Yeah, I love the name because, I mean, we live in a bungalow. I think you would classify this as a bungalow.
It looks like a beautiful mid-century ranch to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I've been here for 20 years and a lot of love for Audubon Park. Just, seeing it grow as it has. I feel like Bungalower is a really great kind of partner with Main Street organizations and kind of promoting and branding and just getting people excited about what's going on here.
They all kind of started at the same time. I didn't found Bungalow, and I actually don't own it. I just kind of run it like I own it. So my friend Matt Brofman founded it and kind of grew with the Main Streets. And so he was working on the streets with the director. So Joanne Grant, I think she's been around. I don't think there's ever been another director of Mills 50 Main Street. Your current one, he was working with Kat Quast, who was before Jennifer Marvel. And so they were always hitting the streets trying to say these words, say the Main Street names as much as possible, right? Hype everybody up and get them to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And, I just got excited and hit my mic.
It's quite all right.
All right.
And there was a time when nobody knew what Audubon Park was. Like, it's been called this for so long, but like, other than a name on the map,
didn't care, right?
Didn't care.
There was an apathy about it because, why did you need to know what the name was? Because people weren't generally coming to the Main Streets as much.
We were very much just like a pass-through neighborhood. We had, the couple of plazas with small businesses in them. There was a Krispy Kreme in one of the plazas, which is like kind of wild just to think of like chains here because it's not about that now.
Well, that's the way it was designed, right? Which is why y'all have such a love-hate relationship with the traffic patterns and hopefully with the calming of Corinne, on the horizon that can help. Yeah. But that's interesting because the people who've been living in Baldwin Park are there because they love the ease of going up and down Corinne, going to downtown, hitting I-4, and the idea of perhaps interrupting that flow with a couple extra seconds or minutes of drive time makes their knees quake,
Does.
or makes their hands turn white. They're clenching.
Maybe some people are not used to having to wait. And, we've even seen it at this crosswalk. It's been kind of an interesting social experiment because you hit the button and the yellow flashing light comes on and then it's solid red. And, some people are like, I don't want to stop.
And just keep going.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Well, we have one of those. We live in Mills 50 they have a flashing pedestrian crossway for the urban trail, right? Which crosses right at 1010 Brewing. I would hazard hazard's a good word for it. Maybe 70% of the people who are supposed to stop don't stop.
Yeah.
And that's the trail, you know? So I can just imagine with y'all's, it's just people who happen to be having to park on the other side of Corinne just so they can get into Audubon Park. There's not much of like a destination on the other side, but as that advances, or as that yellow, was it a law firm in the yellow building on the other side? That, like, events, they're not going to be there forever. And the next use there will probably be a restaurant or bar use, I would expect. And so as those interactions on either side of the street pick up and people use that crosswalk more, it'll be really interesting to see if people really abide by those crosswalks.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for the most part, people do, I mean, it is a traffic signal, it's a ticketable offense.
But who's going to be there to ticket?
I know, that's a good point too. So we hope that everybody will abide, because this is how we do in a society, right?
It's how the dude abides.
It's how the dude abides. We all do our part, and that's how it works. So
social contract.
Totally, exactly. Yep. So you moved to Central Florida in 2003 from Ontario, Canada.
I did.
And you lived in Turkey at 16.
I did.
I've done my research.
I was an exchange student.
Yeah. Oh,
World's worst exchange student.
Why?
My mom actually worked for Rotary Club. She was like their event planner.
Okay.
And I had no intentions of ever leaving Northern Ontario. I'm, podunk wilderness kid. We paint rocks and stuff in our free time. I just didn't know of anything like that. I remember meeting, I was hauled into some Rotary lunch meeting, and there was an exchange student there, Zeynep, from Istanbul, and she was smoking clove cigarettes and had this big flamboyant scarf, and she gave a slideshow about Istanbul and where she was from. And I was like immediately struck by, she's fabulous. Who is this person? People can dress like that. What are clove cigarettes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I need to do this. Yeah, right. So many questions. Is this a life path you can do? Right. And I kind of just latched on. And my mom said I could apply as long as I didn't go to Turkey, because she was super nervous. And I put Turkey as my number one choice. And then I went. Oh, no, number two. My number one was Iceland, but I didn't get it.
Wow.
And
either sound great, I think.
They were. But I went to a private school in Turkey, and it's just like a Catholic school, but it was Muslim.
Okay.
And I didn't speak any Turkish, and neither did the other exchange students that were there. And they didn't want us to really participate. We were just kind of supposed to sit there for most of the day.
Interesting.
And I'd never skipped a day of school in my whole life. I didn't know that was an option either, really.
Yeah.
And my friend from Mexico City, Mauricio Gonzalez, kind of he let us know it was cool. Let's get out of here. Let's go hang out with some street kids. We all smoked cigarettes and hung out with skaters and just stopped going to school. So I really kind of missed a whole year of school abroad, but had a wonderful time and came back like not giving. Can I cuss?
Yeah.
Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah.
Just not caring. I just didn't care.
Yeah. I haven't checked the explicit box yet on any of the episodes, so I'm kind of proud of that.
Okay. Well, let's keep it that way. There's no need to do that. We're clever enough that we don't need to resort to that.
It forces us to be a little more clever.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was your unsolicited Adventures of Brendan.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
we stole a horse, Mike. We stole a horse.
What?
Yeah, we skipped out. We told our host families we were going to go stay with somebody, None of us went to that place.
I think what you did is you borrowed a horse, right?
No, we stole it.
Oh.
We stole it from a field and
Oh.
rode it for a week along the Aegean. We all kind of took turns, and the farmer eventually found us and got his horse back.
Okay.
We didn't go to jail.
That's good.
Yeah, didn't get our hands cut off. There was no Midnight Express moment.
But. Yeah, you hear about that kid that got caned for spray painting, for graffitiing.
We were there in a very secular time, and we lived in Ankara, but a lot of people treated us like kids of ambassadors, so we could kind of get away with a lot in the city.
That's dangerous at 16, especially.
Oh, we could do anything. Yeah, we got into all the clubs, and everybody thought I was a Russian prostitute. And it was fun. I had a great time.
So really, you got a different kind of education than maybe they had carved out for you, right?
Yeah. And I went back to Northern Ontario thinking, like, I need to get out of here. Like, what is this place? And then I knew I was gay and an artist. And I had my first, dude crush at 16. I'd never really had that before. Didn't really know I was gay until I went to Europe and came back and just had a real awakening of, Northern Ontario is great, but I don't think there's a place for me here.
That's amazing. Yeah, because you had room to maybe explore like just a different walk of life, right? Just being out of your hometown element and, where nobody knows you.
Right.
And there are other people who are, from other places as well. So you're just sharing this experience and kind of discovering.
There's limits and boundaries that come from, look at these beautiful birds in here.
I know, these juvenile mourning doves. They've taken up home here, the residents. It's really fun. Yeah.
Cuckoo.
Yeah. Welcome to our bird show in Audubon Park.
I imagine.
This is what we do.
I don't need to talk about that too
much. My gosh. Well, anyways, yes. So I was very curious about, moving to Central Florida, it was Disney that brought you here.
It was. And I did the program. 2003 was the first time I came here. I came for it's a year program. They have like a college program and an international program. And for the international program, you don't have to be a student. Mm-hmm. And I came down for a year. They gave me a 3-month extension on my visa just because I was doing well, and realized that because my mother's American, I could take out a dual citizenship, and then I became like a seasonal employee. Mm-hmm. And when I was going to school, I'd come back on my breaks and pay off a student loan, and it was the most money I'd ever made in my life.
Yeah,
serving at Le Cellier Steakhouse in Epcot. And just killing it. And I didn't know anything about Orlando. I just thought it was, the tourist corridor. I didn't have a car. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of experienced it through the Disney lens until I dated Jesus from the kitchen, this beautiful Mexican guy who I actually didn't know we were on a date until he took me. I thought we were just going to watch Frida together, the old Salma Hayek movie. And he took me.
How is that not a date? Come on.
I didn't know. I just thought it was, I maybe kind of was wishing it was. And then it turned out to really be a date. And I was very surprised. I don't know why.
That's funny.
But he took me to Stardust when they were renting videos. We rented Frida from Stardust.
Cool.
And he was like, this is Orlando. And that was my first real experience with like a counterculture in Orlando, which was very attractive to me at that time. And then I came back seasonally and met Scotty Campbell, and he convinced me to transfer schools. And I went to night school at Rollins and just kind of moved down.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Your first counterculture experience was in Audubon
It
Park.
really was. And it just clicked now. That wasn't pre.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love bringing these things out. This is like a discovery for both of us.
Yeah. It was a destination for the chef. I remember we just kept driving and driving and driving. And I was like, where are you taking me? Is this, I'm going to get chopped up or something.
Yeah, because it's like a half an hour from Disney. And at that time, too, this neighborhood is very tucked away. So,
right.
So you wouldn't really, you go through a couple twists and turns.
There wasn't anything remarkable, I remember, at the time. I just, we pulled up, and then it was about a bunch of, hippies and VHS tapes. And and it was very cool at the time. Yeah, just to find that little oasis.
Yeah. Stardust, I remember visiting there when it was a video store and just being blown away. It was really the main reason that I bought this house.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be in this neighborhood because I'm like, this is a really cool kind of cultural anomaly, Anemone. Anemone. Any of those. It's all of those things. And we've become friends with the owner, Brett, and yeah, it's like my favorite spot to get coffee. Really.
I think it's where I met Gabby back in the day when she was doing her markets.
Yeah, she's still doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had to take a break because of health reasons for a while, but
yeah, she passed the torch for a hot minute too to somebody else.
Did. Yeah, she's got a great employee that held it all up when she was going through things, and she's doing so much better now. We both are.
Hey, I love it.
Yeah. So. We watched an episode of your TV show. It was very difficult to get to. I don't know if you've gotten that feedback before.
Use your experience. Yeah.
It was on Roku, and we basically had to. We didn't do this. We did a search for the channel, very local,
right?
Which yielded no results.
Oh wow, interesting.
So we had to do a search for the TV show itself and watch the trailer, which is on very local, so we added it that way.
Okay.
So that's a pro tip for anybody trying to get to your show that cannot.
It's on Amazon Fire Stick and Roku.
Yes.
Hearst Media, they're the parent company for Wesh, have launched that online channel in, I believe, 5 cities. New Orleans, Boston, Orlando, I think Seattle's one. I can't remember the others.
Wow.
And
we're very lucky. Yeah.
Very lucky.
Not a lot of places. Yeah.
And I love that Orlando's one of those markets that they thought that they need this.
Yeah.
Maybe just because we use the word local so much.
We do love that word.
We do, which is great. Yeah. I love that that's trending enough that it would make a TV channel start here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they approached me as a location scout, which I do sometimes for people. People approach us all the time for tips on where like, who's this shop? We're coming here to do something for guys' grocery games, or like, who's someone that we should talk to?
Nobody better than to ask than you, because you are everywhere.
There's
all
a
the
lot
time.
of people they can ask, but I love that they keep coming back, because that's it's great for us. It's great for our relationships with local businesses, and we're not just promoting people who are sponsors or work with us, but it does make us also look good. When that restaurant remembers that, hey, they gave us a heads up.
Yeah.
They connected the dot here and we got a gig on TV. So I love that.
Yeah.
I could connect dots all day for people.
And you do. You really, really do. That the show is just so well produced.
They did a wonderful.
So good.
Yeah, I'm very. I didn't expect that. So my mom watched it and said, it's just like a real show.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. But it wasn't so like your presence too. Just like you are very cut out for it.
Oh, thank you.
You really, really just. I was laughing out loud. Like you were just. You have just this presence.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
I was wondering about that.
Hard
just
gig.
Thinking about all of these things that you control just visually, and then like being on topic. It's like podcasting is one thing, but like, to be on camera, and especially with different locations and shots and things like that, it's like.
12-hour shoot days, 6 hours per restaurant. And we were, and just because they were still trying to figure out like what the recipe is, and very local, Wesh, great partners, and we're so glad they did it, but they had a lot of input.
Yeah.
And each time we would film something and send them a cut, they'd say, well, let's try this on the next one. So in this first season, a lot of them are kind of different. The pattern is different per episode. I think my favorite one was the one with Kwame from Chicken Fire.
Okay.
And I think that's when we really found our pace,
That's so cool.
What it should look like. So we're waiting to see if we get another season. When we first started, it was very scripted. They wanted me to memorize some things, which I think I've done some permanent damage to my short-term memory. So that was very difficult for me. And then we realized that more of my sweet spot was just ad-libbing, which is great.
Yeah.
And there was no pressure, and it was just kind of experiencing it in the heat of it. And then it was their job to capture it. And it was Adrenaline Films is the local firm that did everything. They shot it, edited it, and then sent it in. And they were wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really made me look good.
Yeah, it does. It looks beautiful. The editing is great. Even the music cuts and things like that. And just like, yeah, it was a joy to watch.
Yay!
I can't wait to watch all of the episodes. We only had access to one of them.
Okay.
It was like...
That's so weird. I wonder what's
strange.
happening. I actually just got a text from somebody that tried to watch it and they got an error message. So maybe there's like a
a little glitch.
Yeah,
there's something
in the Matrix.
In the Matrix.
I hope it's working. I love it.
Yeah, we watched the street food episode.
Okay, that's the weakest one.
Oh, what?
Which is a shame. But that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was great seeing Joe Creech from Hunger Street. And
who I love. He gets more and more handsome every time I see him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful man.
Courgette over at a la carte, the little food truck. I made falafels for the first time from scratch.
It's really cool. Yeah.
I love learning that. And I am a little bit of a foodie. Mm-hmm. I don't really think of myself as like a professional foodie. So that was a little bit of a stretch for me to like head a show, which we're calling Gay Fieri. Just like big old homo like me experiencing food.
I love it.
But yeah, I think it worked. Yeah. So thank you so much. It's so nice to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I hope it gets renewed for a second season. It's
I do
very deserving. And I hope that you do come to Audubon Park. Do you get to select the restaurants?
I gave them lists. I was a staunch advocate for more than a few of them, but there were a bunch that West wanted to hit some benchmarks of things. Like I actually didn't choose Shauna's, which is a Caribbean soul food place out in Gotha.
Oh, wow. I
actually had not heard of it.
Yeah.
And I'm super glad we went, so I got to meet them because ever since I've been, I am in communication with every single one of those restaurants. Kwame's so busy, I never get to talk to him, but it was wonderful to encounter some, but most of them I definitely wanted to cover.
Yeah,
I don't think we did Audubon Park at all. In the show.
Well, next season 2, gotta really.
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. Well,
juniors, I'd love to know more about what makes them tick, especially in that conversion over to a Mexican restaurant. I was a little worried about that happening, but I think they're doing pretty well, and those operators just seem so wonderful. Yeah, I'd like to know more about them.
Yeah, and Foreigner is coming in.
Oh yeah,
Bruno's restaurant.
Bruno Fonseca.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Or light on the sugar too, or no, it's
sugar dough.
Sugar dough, but same operators.
Do you go there? Their stuff is so good.
I haven't been in months. It's time to go back.
They've got a lot of new stuff. Great social media presence, that sort of thing. Speaking of which, your social media is really, really wonderful as well for Bungalower. And I mean,
always learning.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting very good at the reels.
Thank you.
We have to learn our reels and be our own.
An intern taught me how to edit things on my phone. Before that, I had no idea.
It's there's a lot there, right? There's so much you can do with reels.
Yeah, and it's so important, especially with how much Instagram and Facebook are pushing video content.
Yeah.
YouTube, I never kind of got a hold on, which is a shame. I wish we could do more with that. I think we need like our own YouTube specialist to just make content there. But I think I've always been, when I started at Bungalower, it was just the website and the newsletter. And that was it. And bless Matthew, but he just didn't want to do anything else. That's what he wanted to do, were those two things.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's great, but not everybody wants a newsletter, or not everybody wants to read the website. So I'm a firm believer that we need to meet people where they are, which is why we have so many platforms, right? So the social media, like he didn't really have Instagram. I think we had like 30 followers or something on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I remember Mark Baratelli from the Daily City, as wonky, crazy as he is, was always like, Instagram's where it's going. And if you can't tell your story on social, then you're going to be in trouble. So that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And just using that as a way to mobilize your stories, I think is just very important. Or radio. We lucked out and got the radio show on 104.1.
Yeah.
Which I had never really listened to real radio before. I knew nothing about it. And that's its own little weird pop culture island here in Central Florida.
It really is.
Everybody has a lot
of people that way. Yeah.
And we're so hyper local. I wasn't sure if that would fit, because there's people out in Cocoa Beach now listening to us talk about things that are very specific to downtown Orlando, like your new crosswalk. We talked about that on the show, and for whatever reason, it's okay. People are still listening over in Cocoa Beach.
I mean, Cocoa Beach people are going to come hang out here too,
Right.
I mean,
eventually.
Eventually. Eventually, everybody comes to Orlando.
All roads lead here.
They do. It's not a bad thing, but we need better roads. And that's part of what Bungalower covers as well, is just, different things that are happening with construction and policy issues and
You have
things
a
like
dinner
that.
table test. It's like things people are they going to talk about it at the dinner table? Can people talk about it at the dinner table? So we don't do crime. Well, sometimes we do crime if it's like really, I can't imagine. I can't remember one that.
Like the art museum.
Which is more like just that's a news headline. I don't know. It is rooted in crime.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story.
Some fraud, right? Some
fraud, some light fraud.
Yeah. Just like
allegedly.
It's a great museum, by the way. Gabby and I got married there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. It's very close to our hearts.
We do a lot with them.
Yeah, they're awesome.
It's not going to stop us from talking about how bat poop crazy that was.
Yeah.
Just absolute guano.
Well, and I wonder, I mean, that story probably just like went around the world just because it's so fascinaing too.
New York Times, I feel like, talks about it every week. Every week. We're talking about Orlando.
You got to be known for something.
Right? You do. There's a great magazine called Monocle, and they're out of UK, which I am super inspired by for like our magazine.
Cool.
And they talk a lot about growth and economics and urbanism and design, and it's all the things I ever want to talk about, all in one little magazine. And so, but they have a concept that they talk about regularly: soft power versus hard power. Hard power being like military might and things like that. Soft power being more like cultural influence.
Okay.
And Orlando, when you look at like we have Visit Orlando and Visit Florida, it's interesting to see the stories that they promote, which are more tourism related versus things that are more newsworthy. And we're in this constant struggle now because the stories that are coming out of Orlando are not the ones that we should really be focusing on, right?
Yeah. They're not good news stories.
Not good news stories. Yeah. And so that soft power ranking, I feel like, is just always decreasing a little bit, like road safety for cyclists. Lawsuits against Disney for being their own autonomous political engine.
Right.
How awful that those are the ones that are constantly coming out versus...
There's so much more here.
There is. There's a lot here.
Yeah.
Those are very sexy headlines, but I think we also have some other sexy headlines that I'd love to see.
Well, and there are a lot of people who, maybe have only been to Disney, like in your early times here of just like, well, this is Orlando, right? Because the perimeter kind of around Disney it's grown a bit, but like for a while it was just sort of in the middle of the woods in a way, right?
And then everything that then it grows around the parks, like the suburbia and the sprawl, or like they're almost like amusement parks slums. I say slum liberally. I shouldn't, that's not the exact word.
Like iDrive sort of.
Those types of developments of like no man's land. There's no like identity for those neighborhoods. That's what people are encountering when they come to Orlando versus Audubon Park. But we're seeing more Audubon Park because of its connections, like Gideon's Bakehouse having that annex there now in Disney Springs. I just came from dropping magazines off at East End Market, and there's a line around the corner, and there are people wearing Disney shirts there because they've discovered through all these bloggers that it's easier to get these cookies at Disney off-site. And then they're encountering all of these other brands while they're here. How wonderful is that?
It's the best.
Yeah, more of that.
I went to Disney Springs last Sunday. And we were in the area for a conference, and I wanted to see what that whole, the Gideon's location looks like, and get an idea. And I see this line, and I thought it was for Morimoto because it was like right outside of that. Yeah. But it was actually 3 blocks long, a half an hour before they opened at 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and it was all Gideon's. All Gideon's. It was. I mean, it's just so impressive. What a huge machine that has become, and cookies, yeah.
And so the Visit Orlando again, and not to dump on them, but there's downtown Orlando, the CRA, there's been this target in mind to try to capture 3% of tourist traffic that goes to the parks and bring that downtown, right? Oh, I've never seen it really happen.
No.
As successfully as this cookie is doing it.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more of that happen. Imagine if these tourist engines could help maybe supplement like through the DDB paid for like Mad Cow. We know how that went, but they paid for Mad Cow to open up on Church Street. Imagine some of those dollars going to incentivize some real cheerleader local brands that we know would translate well with tourists to maybe go out to Disney Springs and have a presence there too. I would love that. Like these little BOGO location deals to drive more people downtown too.
We've covered most of the things that I wanted to talk about. I love the podcast.
Thank you.
I haven't listened to it like on the radio, but it's very easy to access it on the podcast. It's great to hear Eugene's voice in that opening song.
I was just talking.
What a treasure.
He is a treasure. Yeah. And we do not do him enough justice giving him credit for the opening song, and we need to figure that out.
This is your opportunity. You can add yet to the end of that sentence. I learned that recently. This is about a growth mentality rather than the other mentality that we forget about.
There's a lot of grace in that sentence.
There is, right?
Grace was my challenge for 2022, and I didn't succeed.
I think it's an ongoing challenge, all the time. But that is another great thing about podcasting and listening to podcasts is what you can learn just from other people's experiences and conversations.
Who are you?
I don't know.
You're
I'm
such
just a person.
Yeah.
I'm on this journey. We're on this journey.
On a ball hurtling through the heavens.
Absolutely. And yes, I think it's just about noticing and paying attention, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that's most of our journey as humans.
I think so. Deep. And I mean, editing is part of it as well when you have so much information coming in. And, it's very interesting to hear like how you select your stories of, what would be talked about. And I love getting your newsletter on Monday mornings. It's like just so consistent and, 10 things that you should know. It is 10 things.
Yeah.
Right?
Top 10 things you should know this week.
Yeah. And I imagine that must be difficult to choose. I mean, it's like, that something's going to have to be left out. But, you really want to cover the things.
When we started that, Matt specifically wanted a newsletter with just the 10 links, and that was it. And then I started the second section, which is in case you missed it.
Yeah.
Because there's too much, and if we're really going to try to provide people with like a comprehensive email of things you need to know. And again, it's all about plugging people into their town. We have to have more than just 10 links.
Yeah.
And so it's grown, so now it's the top 10 headlines, other supplementary, funny words, supplementary words that you might have missed.
It's like supplementary and complimentary at the same time.
Yes. Are you rapping?
I am.
Like urbanist. Now there's an urban section of like cool urbanist headlines, which I was a big proponent for. And our slogan is building stronger cities. That's Bungalower's slogan. We can only really do that through informing people.
Yeah. And I think that it does make people feel more connected because they know what's going on. And, it's not just like, here's the latest gossip. I mean, there might be some gossip in there. Of course, we love that.
Yeah. I'm a gay man, so it's nice. You always want to be a little sassy with the gossip. And I think that comes through on the radio show much more so than in the copy of the website. That's I don't have many rules, besides the dinner table test. It has to be in the bungalow neighborhoods of downtown Orlando, which I expanded to Winter Park when I took over.
That's fine.
Nobody was writing about
There's a
them.
lot of bungalows there too. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of McMansion bungalows that,
Right. It's a historic neighborhood.
They want to be included. And they should. They've got a lot of cool stuff too.
And when we did that, we actually had to add some of the West Lakes districts in Paramore too, because Paramore is one of the oldest neighborhoods in town.
Yes.
And nobody was covering them, so I made sure to add Paramore.
And they're really going through a lot of change and gentrification there, and it's very hard. It's really hard to watch, people getting pushed out of their homes. And
it's 5,000, I think, residents are left in Paramore. Most have moved to like Pine Hills or Holden Heights, just south, and that's gonna continue. That's like regardless, that's just gonna continue. Sure. And it's interesting to see the city's solution to that is to build affordable housing in Paramore, but like you can't put all of our affordable housing properties in one neighborhood.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. That's not sustainable for the neighborhood.
Right.
And it's not great for everybody to be living in the same zip code with the same. Like, you need to diversify that.
Absolutely.
And Audubon Park could have some. You'd never see it.
Yeah. And the Colonial Plaza, from what I understand at Bumby, that is that's going to be part of that project, I think.
Affordable housing.
I've heard that.
Good for them.
Yeah. That's a little hot tip for you. So they are listening. They hear you on that, I think.
Kimco, the people behind that are very clued in.
Yeah.
There are tax dollars to be saved by doing some affordable housing.
Sure.
The Pine Crest development that's going into Pine Hills is going to have some affordable too, but they're, instead of putting it through all of the buildings they're like squeezing it all into one building at the far corner of the development, furthest away from the bus stop. So it's interesting to see like how it gets applied to development in town right now. People are just happy to be seeing it included.
Yeah.
Which is okay, I guess, as long as they're doing it. But it'd be great to see it like as more of a center part.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the complexity of just our entire economic system, it wears me down thinking about it, because I want everybody to do well. I want everybody to have a good life. And, it's like we can only do our part and vote, and these things are important, and be like kind of attuned to what part we can play. But
and ask these questions of our, commissioners. And we have commissioners. It becomes like a career, like a lifetime career for some of our commissioners. This is it for them.
Right.
This is what they do, and they will not let go. Or, I love Commissioner Stewart. He's very nice as a person, but he's like part of this good old boys dynasty here in town, where his family, the Stewart boys, are very integral to a lot of the moving and shakings of the community in the neighborhood, especially College Park. And I can't imagine anybody successfully running against them. We continually see people run against Commissioner Stewart and then nothing happens. But because there's no turnover in that, is there more growth left in College Park, or does it continue to grow along the same lines that it's done for the past few decades, right? And we know we need to see some changes there, because there's a lot of turnover in businesses on Edgewater Drive, because we don't see a lot of like the turnover that happens in College Park is so much higher than the turnover that happens in Audubon Park.
It is, and it's a bigger district. I mean, each comes with its own challenges. It was really great.
Y'all support your businesses more in Audubon Park.
I know, it's true. There's a lesson there, right? And it was interesting talking to Commissioner Stewart, and I believe just outside of College Park, there is going to be a homeless shelter facility that is going in. So I know that he is pretty in tune with helping those who are in need, and his work with nonprofits and things like that. It was
his
very
job is the Christian Service
He
Center?
is retired now, but it was so I think over the years he's done a lot of helpful things for people, and just having grown up here and seeing the changes and kind of understanding the pace might be a little bit different, I think, for somebody that's doing that. So like,
I'm very interested in long-term generational Floridians and families that have had these long-standing impacts on how Orlando has grown, and then how their children, through real estate or larger, long-standing, long-term businesses, have their fingers in all the pies, like how that grows. And the longer I've been doing Bungalower, the more I get to meet these families and the people who are making things actually move and shake behind the scenes. Super interesting. And the Stewarts are one of them. College Park has had a large role in the way that Orlando has grown, even down to the fact that they have like those walled off streets. If you're going up OBT.
Oh, it's so bizarre. Yeah.
Could any other neighborhood do that? Would any other neighborhood do that?
It's terrible. Yeah.
Right?
It's
just
very classist and very racist. And it's just, it's hard to, these things are kind of built into the city structure. And undoing them, you can't even imagine what it would take to undo those things. But
right.
yeah, how was that legal? How are they able to do that? And just like,
and how is it never going to change?
Wall up a street, Yeah.
Multiple streets. Just walled off. So now if there's an issue, like fire department or anything, they have to go through and around these neighborhoods to try to get to those homes. It's just very interesting. And I've never seen that applied anywhere else in town. I guess Baldwin Park versus Audubon Park is kind of similar, but your demographics are different. And Audubon Park is on such an upswing at the moment, real estate.
Well, and we have very wealthy neighbors with Winter Park and Baldwin Park, and we are becoming that sort of affluent neighborhood as well, like with the housing prices.
Great school. Everybody wants to come over here because they have access to that school.
It's so true. It's it like these things have really changed the neighborhood, and I want this for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's like I love celebrating it. I love sharing it, but that's also just a component of just like, I get sad when I drive through some other neighborhoods, and I want everybody to
have access
to this.
The issue is whether it's still accessible, right? And so like when we started writing about like House of the Day, I tried to have a target where nothing was really over $250,000. I wanted to write about things that were under $250,000. Almost impossible right now to do that. You just can't do that. We used to have a rental roundup of homes and places you could rent for under $1,500. I can't do that anymore. Everything's $2,000, and it's like for studio apartments.
Yeah.
And so we're part of that, like us talking about the neighborhoods and the businesses and making them more desirable. And these thousands of new people, or it's 1,000 new people move here every week. They see these things. They know these are the neighborhoods where you want to come and hang out.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting to see how that changes and who has the access to live in these communities as they change. And Audubon Park is a little bit different because you have it's so concentrated at that intersection, really, right? Of your cross streets of the big gas stations.
Right.
Your commercial center doesn't leach out as much into the neighborhood. So it's a little bit easier for homes to stay the same. Mills 50 and Ivanhoe Village, though, on the other hand, are like on this, they're on the front. Like they're right in the middle of this fight versus these very growing, strong commercial sectors and retail and bars, right? And then how they interact with the abutting neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And like there's a rule coming out, which we haven't written about it yet. And maybe by the time this comes out, we have, but they're about to change like what is a nightclub and what is a bar, and what are their requirements then if you're like Hammered Lamb, because they charge cover sometimes, and they have a place for dancing, they will probably qualify as a nightclub, which means
fascinating,
right? So this sudden shift for them, or Island Time, because they do drag brunch.
Yeah.
These events will make them qualify as a nightclub, and as a nightclub shift. What does that mean for noise ordinances, and what does it mean for more lighting, and they're all going to require more parking. I live right over by Quantum Leap on this little triangle of confusion, and
it's so great over there.
It's wonderful, and I love that we live there.
Yeah,
and I hope we can continue to live there if we can buy this house that we've been renting for 10 years.
Yeah.
Our landlord was letting us rent for $1,000 a month.
That's incredible.
Never raised the rent. It is 2-2 house, water included,
and that location too.
It was wonderful. We just stumble out into things. House on Lang has moved in, which they're doing crazy events in the back. They'll have concerts and night markets, and they're killing it.
So cool.
The Lampshade Fair is going to become a bar from the investors behind Saddle Up. And they say it's going to be completely different, but that's like a downtown vibe that's going to be applied to Mills 50. And then how does that interact with the neighborhood?
Yeah.
You don't think about that. And that whole corridor is like, they did an audit, and it's 66 spaces short of the parking it needs.
Wow.
And yet 3 new businesses have just moved in since that audit took place.
Oh my gosh.
So you're like, why? How does this work? And so we'll be seeing more of that. In the coming, I would say 2 to 3 years. You're going to see some lawsuits from neighboring residential people. what does it look like for, like, you're right behind you're very close to Corinne. I'd say, what, a block away from Corinne?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Eventually everything along here will be condos, right? Because they'll want higher buildings, denser apartments facing these main streets, right? And so you can slowly stagger out into these single-story neighborhoods, and that's what they're all gonna look like. That's where the main streets are going, because as you'll fit more people in, it helps with the buffer between businesses and single-family homes.
Well, hopefully not. I mean, I don't want to lose my house, you know.
It'd be you won't lose it because you're here, but like as you sell, or someone's going to come along with an offer that maybe you can't refuse. It's going to, you plus some other people next door, they'll snatch it up and build an apartment building here, and that's what the city wants. They want to see more of that as these main streets develop. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting to watch that happen.
Yeah, and I mean the way that we are set up, that
was a tirade. Was I on a soapbox?
That was great. Yeah. I think it's important to talk about these things and bring them up for sure. And it's hard to imagine that structural change here because people are doing kind of the tear down complete rebuilds, but they want sort of bigger houses, so they still continue to be single family homes. So that would
built
be
out to the
shift.
Lot line,
Yeah.
And they're not long-term investors, right? People who are doing that, they're not going to be here long. Those houses aren't built to last, which is why you're going to see more turnover in those homes than you would in people who've been living generationally in homes like yours, right?
Yeah.
Just interesting to see.
Yeah. So if you buy an Audubon Park, please keep your home and just make the renovations. It's great.
Age in place. We want to stay here, get you guys a grocery store and call it a day.
We're all doing our part. We all have a role to play.
Yeah. It's just interesting. I love watching that kind of thing happen.
Yeah.
Poor little Lake Formosa neighborhood is just with the incoming of the yard at Ivanhoe and that giant food hall.
Yeah.
There's no parking there. They have people drunk driving through their lawns and, for blocks away. And they're sandwiched between the yard and Mills Park. Right. And then someone eventually will buy up those places along Virginia Drive. I believe actually the guy who owns the yard, who's instrumental in moving Hideaway across the street, they're about to build another yard-like development on that street, on Brookhaven. I see that happening here. There's too many single-story, cheaper properties on Virginia, and you're too close to Baldwin Park and Winter Park for things like that not to happen. Or like the Hourglass guy. Giovanni Fernandez, my fake boyfriend, because he's so handsome. I met him the first time I met him. He was stepping out of his truck, and a gust of wind came and rustled his beard, and he was I forgot all the questions I was supposed to ask him. And he's a developer. That's what he's here for. But he's building communities. Like he bought up that intersection at Hourglass. There was no name for that neighborhood. Branded it Hourglass District.
Yeah.
And then started buying up these strip malls, redoing them, investing in the businesses to put in there. He's like his own Main Street district, right?
Wow.
And the whole plan was to keep it single story, but then they changed it. And the city wants multi-story properties there. And so he's now building this giant mixed-use building. And that's what's going to happen all along Curry Ford, or buildings just like that.
Yeah. You can't help but think that is going to be the model when you see it happening in a couple of districts. And
little neighborhood nodes, right? And that's, as a city planner, that's what I went to school for.
Yeah.
That's why you establish these neighborhood nodes, is so you can start, you want people to have everything they need within a 10-minute, 15-minute, jaunt from their home.
There's like a walkability score that you can look up online. And
Thornton Park, that's another good example. That's why they built up Thornton Park.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
South Eola, crazy how fast that went up. That's the densest neighborhood in town.
Yeah.
It's like walking through New York, some of those.
It is.
And it's going to be packed. That's what Paramore is going to look like.
It's true.
Just like South Eola.
Yeah, it's on its way there, isn't it?
They have all those stadiums there. I think there's like 3 new properties coming up that are going to look like the towers at Creative Village. Craig Osler, who's a big urbanist, there's going to be he's a big proponent of what's the missing middle. That's what the urbanists call it. So in between the high rise and the little apartment building. What does that look like?
He's building across from Advent on Orange as well, right?
Yeah, he does all the housing properties for Advent Health. He built the Ivy there just across the street. And,
yeah. It's, I mean, all of these city changes, and keeping up with all of this news, all of these things happening. It's kind of incredible what you do if you think about it.
Well, I'm a big nerd and I love all that stuff, and yeah. I for whatever reason, this became my my drive. I wake up and I want to know what's happening, and thankfully it's an addiction that helps others.
Yes.
Yeah. My boyfriend would argue otherwise. He hates that I work. I work all day, like every day. Like I'm always, if I'm walking by someone and I know that they're working on something, like I'll need to go talk to them because I want to know what's happening. And it's none of it's malicious. I don't think it comes from like a controlling, weird, perverse way to like benefit from that news. I just want to know, and I know that other people are going to want to know too. So just keeping that in mind as Orlando grows and as we grow, Bungalower, just keeping that true to form as we continue to move forward, because we haven't messed up yet. Like I don't think we betrayed anyone's trust. Knock on wood. It's all coming from a place of just trying to lift ships.
Well, and it that is very clear to me, and that was actually definitely a point that I wanted to make, is just like your heart is in this for the right reasons, and you can tell.
Oh,
you really can.
Phew. Okay.
It does. It comes through. Like, your fascination with it, and your wanting to share the news and caring about it in that way.
I get really sassy with like the city people, which I should get a little less sassy, because it's so hard. I worked for the city of Winter Park for a hot minute. I was in their sustainability program, and I did all like their volunteer stuff. But I get the pressure that they're under in public service jobs. Mm-hmm. But there's a complacency that I'm seeing recently with city people, especially the Downtown Development Board and the CRA and the treatment of downtown. So maybe I try to wrestle between a frustration with things that I see in the public realm and local development and news, and just presenting facts. And so thankfully we have a format with Bungalower where it's not a lot of waxing poetic on the news or presenting an opinion. It's really just like the who, what, where, when, why on the website.
Right.
If for some reason there's going to be some sass, I'll put it in the image choice or something. That'll let you know where I'm standing with it.
Maybe the caption for the image.
Yeah. That's where it can come out sometimes.
Just a subtle little jab.
I just can't, because I can't hold it back. But
well, and that's what makes it very palatable for everybody that's looking at it too, because, and they, I think people understand what's coming through sometimes too.
Hope
and it's
so,
but also your opinion on those things doesn't become the point, which I think is,
it's not about me.
Right.
Like, then that's a microcosm, and it could be a little masturbatory with some blogging. It shouldn't be ever about me and my interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. Again, that's what the radio show's for.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the social stuff, but the website should primarily just be where you get the information to make your own decision.
Right.
And hopefully that's the way it continues into the future.
And it does. I think it shapes outcomes, just people being informed and getting involved. And
so important.
It's where it starts, right? I had a really wonderful meeting with a new property owner. It's a family business that, they bought 2 properties in Audubon Park, and they had leveled a building that had sat dormant forever.
It looked like a monastery.
Right. Well, yes, it had the brick facade.
I love those little archways.
I know. I kind of wish that they kept the archways, because that was pretty cool.
Making it into a park.
Yeah, I know. Well, they are totally open to ideas. They, this isn't kind of their main source of income, but they're looking to do something that will be a good fit with the neighborhood. And they,
that's interesting. Yeah. I love that.
And they might do kind of a phased approach where they start with just building a parking lot, essentially, like maybe a paid, use your phone.
Is parking really that much of an issue for Audubon Park?
It is.
Yeah. Even with the school, because I know the school works with people.
I know some people. Yeah, depending on the day of the week. And honestly, I've talked to a couple of the business owners, and they would be very excited to even, pay for a daily rate just so that they can put their employees there.
It's tough. Like when the guy that bought Wally's not too long ago, lovely. He purchased the old car lot across the street with the idea of changing that into parking for Mills 50, which has a definite parking problem.
Yeah.
And the city wouldn't let them do it because they're just against they don't want just parking lots to open.
Sure.
But they're needed.
They are needed. And I think, what might make this passable as a plan is that it would not stay a parking lot permanently. Yeah. So they are kind of planning for the future when maybe supply chain stuff gets worked out a little bit, when, construction costs and things like that. So how can we utilize this space in a meaningful, helpful way while we are sort of waiting for... Yeah, right. So I think...
Do you know if the district has a laundry list of things that you'd love to see? Is there an audit that y'all have done of maybe of opportunities?
We'd love to put that out there for sure. Yeah.
I think people have done that in the past. I've seen that with previous directors in other districts. I don't know how long they've lasted. But a little audit, here's how many, we have don't do another pastry shop if you don't want to, because you are the baked goods district, right?
Yeah.
So it's tougher, right, to carve out that niche. You'd have to be a real contender, some sort of chain with its own draw. But what does Audubon Park need that it doesn't have already?
We'll put the word out there for sure.
Yeah, a fun little audit. That'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it.
Cool.
Back in the day, I think there used to be things of
I wish this was that a column?
I loved that column.
Yeah.
Which I should bring back. And
there's an opportunity.
That is right. We used to do that for people who don't know what we're talking about. We would look at underused or what I thought was maybe misused or vacant properties that were in districts, and I would try to just imagine through some poor Photoshop design skills what it could be, and the first one we did was Hoods Up.
Yes.
And I just thought back
then
perfect
example,
right?
Yeah.
Come on. And it's the poor woman who her husband owned it, passed away, left that to her, and she just has no interest in selling it at the moment. And I've been with people, I know many developers who've almost succeeded in convincing her to sell it to them. And then something happens, she just doesn't feel right, so she just keeps on holding on to it.
Storing those fun noodles.
Noodles. That's all people talk about, those pool noodles, which I'm sure they don't even float anymore.
I don't know.
Left?
Yeah.
It's just weird pool noodle off-gassing inside there. It just must stink.
It's kind of just storage right now. It used to be probably an auto garage.
It was
just in the Milk District, and it's prime real estate on the corner there. It's a beautiful building. It has so much potential. It could be
imagined at the time there weren't many breweries, that were open when we started that.
Sideward is right across the street now, which is so awesome.
Good luck continuing with them. They kind of have everything under wraps in the Milk District. They're killing it.
They do.
That crew is so nice.
They're so nice, yeah.
They, but I thought a beer garden, food truck beer garden would be cute. Kind of a la carte.
Mm-hmm.
But they have those overhangs. You could just park something there, put a bar inside, lots of plants, and call it a day.
Yeah. It begs for hanging out. It
does.
It really
Picnic
does.
tables and lights, market lights. It could be the community center that kind of clinches everything together for the Milk District. They need
the only thing that they're missing is that corner anchor.
Yes.
It's just Hoods Up it, and they whatever it's going to be, they should keep the name because it's perfect.
I agree.
Just keep that sign, keep the name.
I don't know who's going to get it. And I hope they don't just knock it down and make something weird. But
that would be terrible.
Right. But there's just going to be some environmental cleanup that's going to have to happen because it was a car auto service under who knows what that dirt is underneath. But it's stuff like that. There's a lot in Thornton Park right next to the laundromat that's been empty for as long as I've been here in town. And we thought that could be cute, community garden extension to, maybe a rebrand of the laundromat, and it becomes like a Buds and Suds bar/laundromat.
We need one of those in town.
Why is that not a thing yet?
It's crazy.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
If anyone's listening and you want to invest in that idea, let me know.
I know.
I'll hook up with you.
Seriously.
Yeah, we need a bar/laundromat. You could have an outdoor, like, little stage, a cute community garden where people can just chill on great Wi-Fi, get their work done, and get out.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just like a bunch of self-serve fridges, and you scan your card and you can buy a bottle of wine and then go hang out outside. I think there's a lot of potential for things like that in town.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't see it. It just hasn't happened yet. Thornton Park would be a great spot for that, because that's what they do in Thornton Park. You day drink and hang out with friends.
Yep. It's a perfect spot for it. And we've had some adaptive reuse in the neighborhood just in recent years. I know
5 points to Gryffindor for saying adaptive reuse.
Yes,
I love that.
Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. And where you just work, Lobos Coffee.
Great job on that.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It was 3 times more expensive than they expected.
I imagine that to be correct. Yeah, it sat for a while. It was kind of a convenience store gas station for a bit. And
owned by the other gas station across the street. Too funny.
I know. The fact that we had 3 gas stations in kind of the center of our main street, it's very weird. I mean, it just definitely shows the history of
what
the
it was used for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
3 gas stations.
Yeah. And funny because Stardust used to be a 7-Eleven and a pizza shop and an arcade, a video game arcade. Yeah. So it was 3 different things in that building. And so when you walk in to the counter of Stardust, that was a pizza shop. And that's why they have the oven and everything. So the other section of it where you go to the right, that was the 7-Eleven. And the spot to the left was the video game arcade. I just recently learned that from somebody who was here back in the day.
We need to find some photos.
I know.
I love that.
Yeah.
We should do more retro stuff of what this used to be.
Yeah.
This used to be a ... That's a whole new series.
I know. I've been scouring kind of the Facebook pages of Orlando history and Orlando historic photos. There's some really good groups with cool stuff in there. And, Gene's Auto, which is now the Salty Donut. Right. Or the Salty.
Wonderful.
Such a cool place.
Wonderful job they did on that building.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. You never would have thought.
No. And it just a few years ago,
so dumpy.
It was so dumpy. Yeah. I mean, it was what it needed to be when it was just an auto garage.
And now it completes that section. Yeah. Yeah. It's great to see how that one great use can really tie together a neighborhood.
Totally. And the fact that Bembom used to be BB&T, the bank, I remember when they pulled out the bank vault from there and just had it sitting in the lot. This huge steel box.
I thought they kept it. Isn't that their wine room now?
I think maybe they did. They put it back in. So they weren't sure what to do with it. So it was just sitting out there in the parking lot. It's amazing watching these things change over and in very good ways too. People are using these spaces for good. And it's exciting to know what else is going to be happening. I mean, the counseling center over here, and some other offices that are here, that used to be 2 houses. Yeah. Which I just found out recently. They just connected them with an overhang. Yeah. And now
that's a big thing on Robinson Street. You see a lot of those homes that have been converted more into offices, and they just kind of patch onto them.
Yeah. Just adds to the identity of the neighborhood. And it's, that stuff is really cool.
You're really cool.
Thank you. You're really cool. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. And all the websites that you have, bungalower.com, obviously. Your personal website.
Oh, it's BrendanO'Connor.me, which is the behind the scenes crud. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, very much more candid.
It's fun.
A lot of pictures of me in drag and just doing weird things around town.
Yeah. And
I can't believe that's so funny that you knew about. I generally assume nobody knows what that is. Yeah. I'm just dumping things on it.
I mean, it's definitely worth checking out. You've got a lot of cool stuff on there.
Thank
you. I love your AI art that you're doing.
I can't stop.
It's amazing. It's so bizarre and cool.
Mid-Journey. Yeah. Okay. Do we have time to talk about that?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have all the time in the world to talk about this, but Midjourney is a new artificial intelligence platform where you type in word prompts and the artificial intelligence will scrub the internet for images that match those prompts and then create a whole new image. Scary, yes. Also very interesting. Yeah. I still don't know how I feel about the IP rights, because you can also put in a prompt for a specific photographer if you want it to look in a certain way.
Wow.
There's a Dungeons and Dragons artist who a lot of people are using as a prompt to get like the perfect dragons and the perfect wizards. And so now, and at first he thought it was great, but now if you do a Google search, it's actually crowding out his original artwork and you're finding more of these artificial AI things that have nothing to do with him.
Oh, wow.
So it's harder now to find his work online. He's not scoring as high on Google.
That's a weird thing to be pushed out by.
Yeah,
right?
other people's work inspired by yours that they're not really making.
No.
And it's people are saying, oh, I created this on AI. We're really becoming art directors.
Yeah.
Right? You're directing the software to make something for you and you can refine it with other prompts or you can reload it. And the cover of our September zine that just came out is a man's beard made with bees, and that was made with AI.
It's incredible.
I'll be doing much more. I'm addicted. I can't stop. But I think the beautiful part is using those images and then applying it to like interpreting that in a different way through Photoshop or when you can apply your own skills and your own talents to that as a base or as your blank slate, then interpreting it in another way. Because art is all about context, right? And if you change the context, you're changing the message in the art. And I think that's where it can get really exciting. So hopefully people can push it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people who are using it are people who maybe are too nervous to pick up a paintbrush or they've never really done art. In quotation marks before. I've also seen a lot of great design professionals using it as an early base prompt for maybe storyboarding or film people are using it for ways to just kind of imagine out there what they're going to shoot with their film. Like what could it look like first? A really cool tool, Midjourney. You can get to it on Discord, which is like, it's almost like a Reddit.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah.
I don't 100% understand or condone the scene, but it's a very interesting journey to be on, and I love stuff like that.
That's so cool.
You got to keep learning new things, right?
We do.
Yeah.
We're on this journey. We're learning.
We are.
Oh, we're always learning. And speaking of which, the print edition, so you have a monthly print edition. You've been doing that for a few years now?
Yeah, I think we're on issue, I think we're about to hit issue 60.
That's so cool.
Which is great. So one a month. Yeah, I always wanted a print issue. I was trying to prove to my boss that we should do it. And the minute we started doing print, we got like Advent Health wanted to work with us and Orlando Regional Medical Center. So there were these larger advertisers that suddenly took us more seriously because we had a print.
That is fascinating.
Even though it's just a little mini magazine.
Yeah, it's like literally the definition of a zine, right?
I think so. But not a lot of people. I think the zine community doesn't think it's a zine because it has advertising in it. And it's also designed, like we're designing it. But I wanted like a penny saver / just something small. I really wanted, the original idea was to put it between the ketchups and mustards at diners.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a good way to branch out too, that, people that aren't already subscribers of your newsletter.
Yeah.
That
just a flyer.
Yeah. And,
thank you.
I would be remiss to not talk about your book that you co-authored too. 100 Things to Do in Orlando Before You Die.
Yeah.
That's
third
so cool.
edition. My friend, John Bustecker, he's on the radio show with me.
Mm-hmm.
He had done the second edition with, I want to say his name's John Baker, who was another news guy back in the day, who wrote the first one.
Okay.
Who invited John to do the second. John moved out of town, and then the publisher wanted a third edition. And John was complaining to me that he had to find someone to do it, and I'm a glutton, so I said, "Yes, please. I would love to put that on my LinkedIn."
Do you ever say no to things that come your way?
Generally, no. That's how you get to do things.
Well, that's why you're here today too, which I like. I love that. I was so stoked when you said yes.
Why would I? You didn't think I'd say yes?
I mean, I just assumed that you're so busy, but I'm like, you got to put yourself out there, right?
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you would ever feel in your heart that I wouldn't show up. But I generally only get to see people like you when it's for work, just because I'm working all the time. And Sundays are my Mondays when we're doing the newsletter all day today.
Yeah.
I'm delivering zines today too. So, but I generally only get to see people like you when it's a sit down or something for work, which is not great.
Right.
But it's usually centered on something fun and creative.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a
This is such
problem.
a nice opportunity to do this, to catch up and to...
This is the longest we've been able
it's
to
true.
sit down and share.
It's true. You and I saw each other at Paws in the Park, and you were just about to do the announcing for the dog costume contest. So
another situation where I didn't say no. And they keep coming back. Those things, I probably judge 5 dog costume contests a year.
I need to put that on the list for your intro.
I just got asked to do one yesterday when we were at the soccer game. And Scotty
You're very good at it.
You're very nice. I don't think I'm great at public speaking.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Because I know we were talking beforehand and you're like, I don't really love doing these.
I don't. That's when my anxiety comes in. And I think I'm okay. I generally assume I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And in the heat of it, I think once I just lose that baggage of worried about what other people think, and I'm just myself, that's when everybody has fun.
Yeah.
And I'm learning how to do that more with drag.
Right?
Yeah. Because I'm hosting drag bingo in Baldwin Park at Tactical Brewing now.
Is that every week?
Every week, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. at Tactical Brewing. It's fun. I didn't ever think it would happen. We had started something with Doug Bowser, who had a character called Taffy Pinkerbox, which he was a dear friend who passed away recently. But
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, tough. He just had his funeral at the Rep, and it was literally a fringe show. It was like a 4-hour-long series of performances and interpretive dances and things from people who just loved him.
That's beautiful.
It was. But we started something in the pandemic because he lost all of his gigs, and we had hosted a bingo in the past and it did really well, and it was like an extension for our buddy program because we have those little keychains things. So
I'm now in the buddy program.
Yay,
I just signed up.
You did? I love it. Oh, I'm so glad. Like you can show that keychain, you get like happy hour prices at Ravenous Pig.
I love it. Yeah.
Any day, all day.
I'm going to do that Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or actually, I have plans already Tuesday, but I'm going to come to your bingo on Tuesday. That's at Tactical Brewing. Right?
It is. 7 o'clock. You'll get an extra bingo card with your keychain.
Oh, nice.
Good to know.
Man, the benefits just
keep coming in. We throw everything at that program. You'll get a special email when we get like, you can get free tickets to the soccer game. We do that all the time. Or Hard Rock Cafe will send out some discounts to concerts.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. I can't even remember what I was talking about.
It's very well run. No, I love it.
Bingo.
Bingo,
So Doug, we started something in the pandemic for Doug because Persimmon Hollow Brewing at Lake Eola, just because he needed a gig. So we sponsored it. We did that for, I think, a year. And it went well. And then he needed another gig, so I got him something at Tactical Brewing, and then he died of a heart attack. And I would every once in a while host with him just for fun, in drag. I don't think of myself as a drag queen, but I love getting dressed up. I'm a Halloween birthday boy.
Yeah.
And any excuse to put something on was always taken, always accepted and encouraged. And,
your merman in the dumpster is legend.
My dumpster
it's
merman.
So legend, yeah.
I really don't. Nobody talks about that.
Everybody does. Somebody was mentioning it the other day.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I went to a Christmas party once, and there were so many people. I knew like one person, and I hear at the back of the room, "Oh my God, that's the dumpster merman," from the back of this random party. That's a tangent too. If you don't know what we're talking about, I did at Immerse.
I mean, people can look these things up, and
right?
they should. They absolutely, yes. Immerse, which is public art, which
downtown.
Is,
they which is not going to happen downtown, I guess. Again, I think it's done downtown.
Okay.
Because they want the city to pay more money for it, and the city doesn't want to do it.
There are other places to do it outside of. Yeah.
Could have more money.
I think that'll be cool.
Just shop it around. They paid me to sit in a dumpster full of water, dressed as Ariel, the Little Mermaid. I had a bubble machine, and I would use these little pearls, like these little light up balls, and there were my pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
And I'd say something nice to someone, like, I don't know, always wear blush, or something weird. Always brush your hair before you leave the house. And then I'd blow on it and pull out this little stopper, and then the light would come on, and I'd give it to them. And I was like, that was your pearl of wisdom. And I'd kick them to the curb. And it was so fun. I think I gave out 3,000 pearls of wisdom over 2 days. I lost my voice. People were shoving 20s into my boobs. Like, it was so crazy. I got propositioned by many swingers. That was when I had a beard too. So I just had this glitter beard and this Little Mermaid wig. It was so fun. So yeah, that kind of stuff I love doing because it's a joke. I'm not going to ever look like a woman. I'm a suspiciously large woman is what I tell people all the time. I think I got that from Bob the Drag Queen on RuPaul's Drag Race.
I love it.
And so you'll never think I'm a woman. You'll always know. And I'm just there to have fun. And
that's a little wink though. I mean, that's sort of the thing when you see a drag queen with a beard. It is also that, right? Is just like, yes, we realize.
Right?
And it's
I think I look pretty good.
You do. You really do.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm not fishing
no,
as a mermaid.
Yes.
But I accept, I think I look pretty good at it. And it's addictive.
Yeah.
Actually. So and then Doug died, we assumed that was the end of Bingo. I had already co-hosted with him a couple of times to launch the new series, just so our buddies and our bungalower readers were more, give them incentive to come out.
Yeah.
And so they asked me to just take it over for a couple of months. So we have like a 3-month trial.
Okay.
I think we're over a month in, and it's going very well.
Nice.
I know they're very happy, and I think our people are happy. So I think I'll just keep doing it till I run out of outfits. But,
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love it. And the power you get from feeling pretty, which is so weird.
Yeah.
I never thought I'm not an attractive
never
man.
get to experience that.
You would look very pretty,
I have dressed up for Halloween in drag before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you keep the beard?
I did. Yeah.
They call that booger drag.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Because you're not trying to be too fish. That's what the kids say,
Okay.
Don't be offended. It's just the gay term is what we say.
Yeah.
Nobody loves women more than a drag queen.
It's true.
I don't know. It's fun to do. And when you stomp into a room and tell some jokes and get people laughing and you look pretty and you got hair up to Jesus, it's just there's a power that comes with it that I don't want to let go of, and it's very hard when we go to a ball or some big shindig. We get invited to that stuff all the time through Bungalower, and it's starting to be expected that I'll be in a costume now.
That's a lot of work getting done up, right? It
is, but then you also command more respect and attention than if I just show up in a jacket and a t-shirt.
That's
right?
really true. Yeah.
And so if it's something that I want to be noticed for, like the Orlando Museum of Art had that a red carpet fashion event, and I went in drag, and I felt so popular, so powerful, so cool. Otherwise, I would have been eating in the corner, and I didn't want anyone to look at me if I was a boy, right? Because I get a little anxious in those situations. So I could put on this drag mask, show up, tell people they look ugly and touch their purses and kiss their husbands and leave. And everybody thinks I had a great time, And I'm a little bit of an introvert. So putting on that mask helps.
Yeah.
And I see that continuing.
It's a signal to other people that like you're basically like down to perform and to party, right? It's like you don't always want to do that, and people are respectful of boundaries and things like that.
Generally,
they
yeah. Don't wear an inflatable cow costume to cows and cabs. I'll tell you that. People were deep throating my udders. Can I say that on your?
You can. Yes,
I've done it 3 years in a row, and I get molested every time.
Yeah.
I stopped wearing them just because it was so. I would look down, and there'd be 2 Winter Park blue-haired ladies doing gross things to my udders. I had to like invert my udders so people would just stop touching them.
It's an innie. Sorry.
Yeah, it's an innie.
Yeah.
And then they get mad, like, excuse me, consent, ma'am. Like, how dare you?
It works both ways, doesn't it?
This isn't going to make it to the
when
podcast.
You're a cow. It's 100% making it in a podcast. This is great content.
Oh, my God.
I think that just where you go, fun follows. And
otherwise, what are we doing?
I know. Fun is part of the point, really.
Yeah.
Like, be good, have fun, and treat others well.
Make good choices.
I want to feel good about my choices,
Yeah.
I see other people kind of in the public eye doing horrible things to people, and especially in our local government. And I can't stop bringing it up in the podcast because it's just the worst.
Name names. What are you talking about?
I'm just talking about our governor right now.
Oh, yeah.
And he needs to be voted out because it's so harmful, just the performative hatred, and him masking it as other things, but like we know what
tough.
It is.
Yeah,
it's very tough, and I just
so the radio show is on Real Radio, right? Like our show, and that's a more conservative radio station. So at first, nobody wanted to have anything to do with us. I think when we launched, and since being on like Jim Colbert's show, he can be a little conservative too. As I'm on their show every Thursday at 4. Talking about events and things to do over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I make sure I can be as offensively gay as possible.
Nice.
If they've never, but also fun.
Yes.
And not super offensive.
You might win some people over. That's part of it too, right? Is that like, you don't
maybe they don't like gay people because they've never met one.
Right.
So you got to invite people
in. They met one on the radio.
And they did. And when they meet you, and I don't know what it is about Real Radio people, they like to collect you like Pokemon, on the socials, and you're in their house, you're in their car, they know you.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that for, I think we've been on the show for 4 or 5 years. We've been doing it.
Yeah.
And since I'm also I do Tom and Dan, I do Jim Colbert.
Cool.
And then our show, people hear me maybe a little bit more than others just because we're on all of those different channels. And again, that's the same as what I was saying before.
Yeah.
The more channels you're on, the more people you're going to reach where they are.
You gotta put yourself out there. Yeah, meet them where they are. Absolutely. Yeah.
And people respect that, and they're very nice to you. But there's also like a weird sense of ownership. But I think we have a very large conservative listenership, even though I am not conservative really at all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm more middle of the road, but as a Canadian gay man, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
People, I don't know, our audience is very diverse. We have tons of conservatives who follow us just because of real estate knowledge and comings and goings and development stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm a gay drag queen who, occasionally, people like that. So there's we're just walking that line. And because we don't talk about crime, religion, or politics,
right,
there's less reasons for people to maybe trip over something and hate us. And because we don't really do opinion, except on the radio show, it's a little bit easier for people to engage with us too. And I think we're finding more parallels between people than you can, like Orlando Weekly, which just draws a hard line.
Right.
And I used to work for them, so I can talk about them.
Yeah. But they don't shy away from that image as well.
They've leaned into it.
Very much leaning into it.
Which can make people really mad, and then nobody listens, and you're not taking anything away because your cup is full, and you're not leaving any room for anything else, and that's not how you convince people of anything or just have discourse with someone, because they're already turned off the minute you say hello.
Yeah. Winning hearts. I mean, I think it's just we're at this point where there's a lack of understanding from kind of one group to the next,
and empathy
and empathy for sure. And any chance that we can get to sort of bridge those gaps and maybe teach somebody how to be more empathetic or just.
That being said, if you're a dick, I'm going to block you.
That's true. I mean, there are just some people.
My personal opinion.
Some people who are lost causes in that way that are just, haters are going to hate. It is a scientifically proven fact.
Can you? I want that as a sound clip.
Okay.
That was so NPR. Haters are going to hate. Chocolate salty balls.
Love it.
It was wonderful. What else you got? I can talk to you all day.
I know. This really, I
want to learn more about you. We're going to have you on our show so I can ask you questions.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I would love to do that. This venue, this like being on the radio thing, or recorded, conversations, I think there's so much value to it. And I think I love what you're doing. I'm glad that the podcast is going strong. I'm glad that, that you love what you do. I was really hoping to find that today and talking to you, that like, this wasn't like a draining thing to be like constantly out there. And of course you have to recharge.
It can be.
There's a balance.
Yeah, I have no balance.
But you're really getting out there and like really like using your talents. And
a couple of years ago, I thought maybe I was done with Bungalower, and so I just said, I'm going to have a couple of years where I just go hard.
Yeah.
And see how much I can do in the next couple of years. I'll say yes to everything and see what sort of doors that opens for my next step. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And I got sick. I found out I had a thyroid problem. Like my body just was like only a year into that 2-year sprint marathon.
Yeah.
And my body just said, nope, you can't do this. You need to slow down. I had to hire a wellness coach to teach me how to eat again and breathe. And, if you follow our Instagram accounts, I'm at all the restaurant openings. I had to learn that you don't have to eat everything that's on your plate. Like,
that makes sense.
I didn't even know that wasn't an option.
I know you don't want to waste food, but sometimes you have to.
You have
right?
to, otherwise you're killing yourself.
Or take it home and have leftovers and that sort of thing.
I just was at a food judging contest at Marketplace at Avalon Park. Beautiful new food hall over in Avalon Park. If you haven't been, life changing. They do a wonderful job. I was super impressed. This isn't sponsored. I was just very impressed.
That's
cool.
They
invited me there with Pam Brandon from Edible Orlando,
Love
Ricky
Pam.
Lee from Tasty Chomps, and a mom blogger whose name escapes me. And it was so much food, Michael, I thought I was going to die. Like every food stall made 4 entrees, like with real entrees per person.
Yeah.
And they just wanted us to eat the whole thing. It was crazy.
That is unkind.
It is unkind. That's that towards the end. I was like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like,
talk about not respecting boundaries.
Like, but they were also just very excited to have us there. And they wanted to really win whatever, the bragging rights of being the best at what they do. And when we finally thought it was over, and we were judging and trying not to die upstairs, someone ran in with a plate of beignets, like, oh, we forgot to give you these beignets and you have to judge because there's a dessert category.
Come on.
It's like, oh my gosh, but that's my life.
Yeah.
So how do you
people
find
pushing food in your face? Like
food,
eat this,
all the free things. If people, and I don't necessarily like free things, I also, because then it comes with the baggage of, I owe them something.
Yeah.
And so like I try to, and I don't get paid a lot, but I do like to buy the things when we're out there just so people know that we really are here to support local. And I don't have an expense account from Bungalower. So this is like my money.
Yeah.
I paid for this coffee before I came here. So like I want to support as much as possible. I don't want anyone to ever think that we're using them. I don't want anyone to ever talk about that when we're not around, behind our backs. Like they only do sponsored coverage. They only do things if you give them free things. Not the case. We really try to buy everything we can unless it's some sort of sponsored thing. If someone has invited us to cover them for the radio show. Yeah. Like that kind of thing.
That's part of the agreement at that point.
Yeah. But that's also hard on your body, to have that. You can't eat rich foods every day. I like cooking at home. I'd rather have like quinoa and sweet potatoes, and some feta cheese, and just eat a mash in my stretchy pants and watch Netflix. That's a perfect night for me without having to talk to anyone.
Yeah. Well, that's how you recharge, and that's how you balance out like all of the salty.
Yeah, but the minute you're not doing that, you're not covering someone's event, right? So, and we're a small outlet. It's just me and my strategic partnerships director, Mike Donahue, and Matt Brofman, who owns it. But he doesn't really do anything day to day. It's just the two of us. There is room to grow, hopefully soon. We had a great pandemic, but then coming out of the pandemic, everyone's kind of holding on to their dollars, trying to see what this economy is going to do.
Yeah.
So we've had a weird year since.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So yeah, it's just trying to find that balance is difficult, especially for someone like me who just says yes to everything, because I want people to like me, and I want their businesses to do well, and I want Bungalow to do well, and I don't want to miss out on anything.
I get it.
Right?
I like you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I like you too.
I know a lot of people do really enjoy you, like, thoroughly.
I hope so.
And
I don't know why. It's the baggage that comes from.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that we learn by putting ourselves out there sometimes too, is that you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. And the less you can kind of think about the people who aren't going to be into what you're doing, the better.
I do that to an extent, but still, like, and I'll say that to people too, like, well, too bad if you don't like me. Yeah. But like in my heart, I'm
loss.
like, comments. I have to read all the comments.
Oh no.
Well, yeah, because we're not policing. We don't delete any comments, but I want to make sure there's no questions.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
If someone asks a question that I can answer, I want to make sure I do that. I don't want to leave anyone unread.
That's good of you. That's really sweet.
So that's the gig, right?
They could email you, though. You don't ask
questions. Nobody emails. No, it's got to be on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
I check all them. I check all of our socials all the time. Maybe not Twitter, but
I don't read comments on other people's posts even, because I'm just like, I don't want to see any ugliness.
It gets pretty ugly, yeah. Especially, I know now when we write about a house, it's going to be a lot of nasty comments, and it's just because of the market, right? People are mad that they can't afford to live in the neighborhoods anymore.
Yeah. And there's a lot that goes into that, obviously, and people are venting their frustrations. And
it's a percentage of the people who are reading it. I would say maybe 10% of the people who are seeing a post are going to comment on it.
Yeah.
We have to tell our advertisers that too. Like, I know there's a lot of bad comments, but here's like 20,000 people saw this post, and maybe 100 people talked, and out of that, 40 of them were nasty.
You're getting a lot of engagement, right?
Yeah.
It's all about engagement. I know. Don't you love these buzzwords?
Yeah, but it's also, that's what they're looking for. Yeah. If they're sponsoring it, that's if they need to know. Otherwise, I'm happy. I don't really care. It's just how people engage with the content.
Yeah, you are building a great product, and you are constantly looking for ways to elevate it.
Thanks. It's been a great platform for weird and wonderful ideas. When people couldn't eat in the restaurants, we worked with, again, my fake boyfriend, Giovanni Fernandez. He gave us I think he gave us like $1,000, and we got an awesome grant to do milk crate furniture. And we donated it to the milk district. And we built these tables and chairs out of milk crates and donated them to people who didn't have patio sets. Like Pom Poms didn't have one at the time.
Yeah.
MX Taco.
Oh, that's so fun.
The Nook. Yeah. And then people could go to those businesses and sit outside. We won a design award, and I love that. Placemaking. We're helping local businesses. We can be creative.
Yeah.
That's what I get off on. And so doing things like that through Bungalow is my favorite.
Yeah. I think the first time that you were on my radar was the chairs at bus stops. Oh. And each chair had a different design. You were painting chairs and chaining them to
Link's bus stops.
Yeah. Because people,
I called it the Sit Project.
It's the Sit Project. It's great. It's so simple, and it adds something that is useful and cool. It was just very memorable, just that kind of activation of the space, because you see people standing there and it
was so weird. And Link's even got to the point where they were like, we can't say we love this, but we love this.
Yeah.
And we're not going to take your chairs away.
That's good.
But we can't support it in case a chair falls apart and we get sued. And I was like, totally get it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
But how do we solve the problem that you don't have anywhere to sit in Florida?
Yeah.
like
or covered. It's just, I mean,
and when you're looking at who's using the bus, right?
Yeah.
Like so many elderly women that I see at these bus stops, and with nowhere for them to go. That all started from one really from my house.
Mean-spirited, you know. I mean, just the way that we treat people, or just don't fill those. It's a simple thing. Just build a bench.
There's like a set it and forget it mentality for a lot of public amenities, and I agree. It is and mean-spirited by omission, or like by not, there's like a user experience thing that's just ignored, I think, for public utilities and public parks departments. And, I agree, and that's a shame. There's a creative problem solving part that just doesn't come to play. Disney Springs does it wonderfully. Their design of their I guess downtown, so smart. Like they have these little pods where you can break out with your family and sit, and they have stages, and their lighting is great, and the murals and the plantings, everything was thought out. So everything's exposed. Your sight lines are there. You never feel like something bad is going to happen around you.
Yeah.
Why is that not being applied to our downtown?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Why can't we learn from Disney?
That's what they do. They plan functioning outdoor spaces.
Yeah.
Right? They're here on our doorstep. What a great opportunity to apply that to our downtown.
Yeah.
And we're going through, what do they call it? The DTO, Project DTO. They're doing a whole vision downtown plan, comprehensive plan of what to do downtown. And they have, I guess, the results of that. And they just presented them somewhere. Nobody will give me a copy of what they look like until they're finished.
Uh-huh.
Which, I'll be honest, is not okay. If I ask for it, they're supposed to give it to me, freedom of information.
Right. The Sunshine Laws.
Sunshine
right?
Laws.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be putting my foot down soon. It's not going to be as good. I just know it's not going to be as good. And like we had a downtown czar, the bar czar, our nighttime economy manager, right? Who was Dominique Greco, and she eventually was kind of forced to leave because the city was under a lot of fire during the pandemic. They did downtown was hard. It was already hitting some roadblocks, and then they reopened for Halloween. You might remember.
I do.
Right?
Wow. Super spreader event.
But because they didn't,
and
it
that
wasn't
was at a bad
hands-on.
time.
They didn't control the access points. Like there were things they could have done to control the crowds that they didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And when it became a public debacle, they blamed it then on this position, and she was done away with. But along with Dominique was this exit of the food truck pods that they had downtown. They had those little areas where these food trucks were allowed to gather.
Super helpful. Yeah.
The public restrooms. We have no public restrooms downtown, and they have those mobile restroom units.
Yeah.
So those things have just gone away. I'm so interested. I cannot wait to see what the results of this vision plan are for downtown. I had a meeting with them earlier on. They just wanted to pick my brain, and I just let them have it with these things.
Good for you.
Lighting. How is lighting so bad downtown? Right?
Yeah, it really is.
The amount of times that people have been harassed, attacked in downtown Orlando and I'll tell you right now, turn the lights on.
That's
turn the lights on.
It's that is one simple solution to
one of them. Yeah. It's a very complex issue.
Of course it is.
Of shifting demographics downtown.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming very racially charged because we're seeing a lot of black people downtown, or people of color, who you didn't necessarily see before downtown, who are feeling comfortable. And it's interesting because now we're seeing this racially charged argument of maybe that's why there's a spike in crime downtown, disregarding the fact that it's just a spike that's happening because people have forgotten how to act in public.
Right
now that we've come out of this, and there's this free for all mentality. People, they're mad. Suddenly the city's mad. People are gathering in the streets. Then you don't close the street.
Yeah.
Why are you closing the street and then getting mad that people are hanging out in the streets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really interesting.
It's nothing about race. It's about people who are, in desperate situations and that haven't found help elsewhere, and that, the care that they need is not available, essentially. And when you have somebody who is in a desperate situation, it's hard to imagine any other outcome for them, right?
Yeah, I think it's an act of agency too for me. Maybe like I think maybe people feel they are allowed to act out downtown versus somewhere else. Like there's like when you go to
that
Bourbon Street in New Orleans, like there's a lack of structure that would maybe prohibit you from acting out.
Yeah,
that's gone. So you can do whatever you want downtown. Even with these roadblocks, it's so interesting. They put in these roadblocks downtown, and rather than control access or maybe stymie some of those behaviors, it's really just pushed it over to like Magnolia, where people can go to saddle up or stagger in rather to these places instead of having to go to the Orange Avenue bars. So really what it's done is send less people. It's making it harder for people to support Orange Avenue businesses.
Wow.
And they're just existing on the peripheries of the check-in points.
Yeah.
And that's not a solution.
It's not.
It's not. You've just shifted the problem over.
Right.
And that could be a lawsuit, for some of these private businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of where the communication comes in. And, that's part of the role that you are serving as bungalowers, informing people about these policy changes and maybe these unintended consequences.
Yeah, and I don't see there's a focus on downtown. So like we do work with the CRA and the DDB, and I've written things for them like just as myself. I've done some copy stuff for them. And so the narrative of downtown that the city wants to push is it's transitioning. They want it to be a neighborhood, right? Because on paper, contextually, it's a business park, right?
Yeah.
Downtown.
Yeah.
So work and play.
Sure.
Business districts during the pandemic died because nobody was working in their offices anymore. So those businesses then that were supported by those office workers as they left or went to work were hit very, very hard.
Yeah.
So then what came in was people just leaned into then the evening audience and attracting people downtown to just party without that moderation of people maybe in their business suits and just hanging out on the patios, like that more casual fare.
Yeah, it was less of a mix of people from walks of life and circumstances.
Yeah, now it's just the free-for-all, right?
Wow.
And so now
I hadn't
there's
really thought about that.
Well, and so they're not really talking about it, right? And maybe we should do a better job of talking about it too on Bungalower. But so now we're seeing this knee-jerk reaction from the city, from them saying we need to turn off this public speakers, right? We need to turn down this public street party atmosphere, less sidewalk cafes, less people in the streets. Because what they were seeing were people not going into the bars, they were just hanging out outside. Well, that's because they didn't feel safe going inside for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? So, of course, they're going to hang out in the street where you've closed down the streets. There's a liquor store downtown that's selling Traveler liquor bottles.
Wow.
So they don't need to go in those bars. They can get cheaper stuff, make their own drinks, and hang out in the streets, right?
Yeah.
So that became this big free-for-all street party where there are no bouncers. You can do whatever you want outside. Everyone's smoking weed, because it's legal. If you got your card, do whatever you want. And now there's this reaction from the city from these people who don't necessarily even want to hang out downtown. So the people who are making the policies for downtown are not people that go downtown. Their downtown is Crest. Their downtown is the Bohemian. Theirs is the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center on the periphery, right? Higher end destination venues versus these other businesses. And they want to make it a neighborhood. They want it to be family friendly. They want people to live there with their kids and engage with downtown on a more wholesome way. And so they're going to be limiting bar uses. They're making it harder for businesses to buy a bar and keep it as a bar. And that's what we're going to see downtown. And they want it to be more like a main street. And so like our main streets are live, work, play.
Yeah.
Downtown is just work and play.
Yeah.
So they're trying to add that live component. I don't know if it's going to pan out. I don't know if that works for downtown.
It's tough to envision it, right? It's
right?
really tough. Yeah.
Who lives downtown?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know anybody.
Young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Because I'm not a young person, so I don't know.
We've aged out of that, right? And then the people who complain about downtown are people who have aged out of downtown.
Yeah. So, Brendan, thank you so much. This really has been a treat. I love what you do. I look forward to all the new things that you will add because you keep elevating, and it just it does make me feel connected to the city in a way that I wouldn't otherwise. And I know that I am not alone in that. I think that, exactly the mission of what it is that you're set out to do, I think you're doing very well. And I think that is why you reach so many people, because you do it with an honest heart and you do it for the right reasons. And it makes this place better. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. No, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to hear. Thank
Sure.
you.
I mean, probably you don't hear that enough specifically, but it's important to point out. And I think that
it's nice to know it's not in a vacuum,
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Sometimes I would imagine that you can feel a little bit removed from it too, because, people that comment are just commenting on specific stories and things like that, or just generalizations, and they just don't really get what you're doing. But, I think it's important to let people know that you see them and you like what you see. And I hope that you continue on into the future with this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's always nice to hear. My dad used to say that, I see you. He's an archaeologist, and so he'd always work with elders and stuff. And so that was almost like a direct translation of what people would say, forehead to forehead. I see you. We're breathing the same air.
Yeah.
So it means a lot. So thank you so much. And I love your show. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Audubon Park needs voices. All the neighborhoods need great, steady, dependable voices. And,
I agree.
And yours is all of those things. So it's great to see that happening.
Thank you. There's so many good stories here to tell, and just getting to know some of the people here better, and, even meeting some people that I hadn't met before but had heard so much about. It's a great way to kind of make those connections and to see people.
It is, right? It's just another excuse to sit down with people. So thank you so much for having me and letting me share too much. And I promise if you ever have me back, I won't drink all of the Lobos coffee before I show up.
I think it was exactly the right amount.
Good.
I think it's wonderful. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast, is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews. A wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.